both of these teams are tenacious. A rivalry that's older than LCS itself. This game, it is huge.
TSM had a slow start to the split. They have some redemption on their minds after a showing at MSI.
Controlled game from Counterlogic Gaming. The start of the split going very well for them.
You guys pretty much stomped that game, so.
Honestly, when TSM plays CLG, both of us bring like our 110%. This will really show like who's the better team.
Too many roster changes, too many different rosters. It's just stick there, that rivalry. I like all the CLG guys, but with all this hype, I really want to beat them.
You want to come out strong and beat CLG like always.
Pobelter has so much to prove. He doesn't get the credit that he deserves. I think beating TSM is like the first step in him solidifying himself as like one of the top carry mid laners.
Pride is definitely on the line here. We need to beat CLG.
Last split on Winter Fox when we played TSM, we're all walking back to our rooms right next to TSM. They were like, oh, we're so bad. Saying that right next to the team that you just beat, that made me feel really angry. Kind of want to get some payback.
Welcome to Week 2, Day 2 of the North American League Championship Series Summer Split. Now we're coming to you once again from our studio here in Los Angeles, and the crowd is pumped up for another day of League. There's lots of love out there for the teams, and even a little bit of love for our very own Kobe. And of course, we've got a reverse Annie in the crowd today. Nice to see that. Cloud9 arrived at the studio not too long ago. They're going to be facing off today against Xiaowei Zhao and the rest of Team Impulse, who you see arriving as well. Both teams rather, are looking for a win to stop their slide in the standings. We'll see what they can do in our first matchup of the day. Now, hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson, and we're no doubting for more surprises on the Rift today. Today, joining me on the analyst desk, we've got Aiden Zyrene Moon, Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler, and David Freak Turley. Gentlemen, a big day of games, including that marquee matchup, third game of the day, TSM versus CLG. And that has been the one match on everyone's radar, the latest battle between House CLG and House Team Solo Mid. And this one never disappoints. So, gentlemen, how do you think these perennial powerhouses stack up this time around?
And just like Doublelift said in that intro there, every time these teams come against each other, it's 110%. Right as they're hitting their stride, they're going to meet each other. And TSM last week and yesterday, they went back to a mid-focused type of composition style. And it worked for them again. It's great. They're going back to that. It's going back to their roots, start of the season. Good to see them pick up those wins. Now they're up against CLG, who they have a new mid laner. Pobelter's in there, and they don't have to put resources into him. He's winning the lane. He's second highest KDA in the league right now at 24.5, and they don't have to do anything to Pobelter's lane. He shows up for the team fights, and that frees up Smithy to go do whatever he wants. That frees up their shot caller, Zion Spartan, and Afromu to make really calm, collected plays across the map, and that's why this is just going to be a great match overall, because they match up so well in different places.
Yeah, no doubt Pobelter's going to come out swinging, looking for Bjergsen, but I'm really interested in the top lane, just because yesterday Zion had a hard carry game for CLG on his Rumble. He is #1 in all of the LCS as far as KDA. It's only been 3 games, but still very impressive stat, 25 KDA for him. You know, Zyrus is, in the middle of the pack as far as top laners are right now. 3 KDA for all the top laners, but
that's so stark.
That matchup, CLG has shown that they are very willing to have a top lane carry. And although TSM have practiced that style, it has not shown up in the LCS games yet.
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, CLG's solo lanes are very, very strong, and I think CLG can be considered the favorites in this match. But I think there's actually another strength here that it's funny because it's an old strength, but it's their duo lane here. Doublelift and Afromu are confident 2v2ing any duo lane in North America. We know the Wild Turtle and Lustboy aren't really known for the laning phase in general, so this is another pressure point that CLG can go back to old ways, crush the duo lane, and use those guys to win the game as well.
And I also really like the new wrinkle in that, old power that they have, where Doublelift is willing to take the team-oriented AD carry, even into a Kalista matchup, and take Sivir into that. It adds a lot of versatility to CLG.
Right, of course, CLG can pull a Fnatic and just, go send Zion Spartan, a.k.a. Huni, into the top lane and just, crush Dyrus, and that's fine. There's, I think, more angles of attack for CLG here.
Well, you know, yesterday we had a lot of discussion about power picks. With CLG on the blue side, TSM on the red side, how do we feel the advantage falls going into Champion Select here?
It all comes down to what you value, and personally, I'm going to say the blue side has the advantage here. First off, you don't have to ban Ryze. You get to power pick that first if it's left open for you. And since they have 2 carries, and it's the solo laners, Zion Spartan and Poe Belter, you'll at least get a counter pick for one of them. And if you don't get a counter pick, then you're going to be able to get a priority power pick for them that you think is something very strong. And even then, you can be like, well, let's just put Poe Belter on something safe so Bjergsen can counter pick like an AP Kog'Maw or whatever.
Yeah, that definitely is true. I always value red side a little bit higher when I'm playing TSM just because I want a safe counter pick for the mid lane to deal with whatever Bjergsen has. I never want to give him the ability to counter pick my mid laner, but that's a very valid point. Plus, you know, all the historians in the audience will know that CLG blue side is the most important thing ever. All we have are blue side strategies, right?
Yeah, exactly. Great. So we're back in season 2 here. Yeah, I think there is an interesting wrinkle as you're talking about Ryze first pick. Blue side allows you to pressure early game aggressive junglers. And that is something that can actually be a really big factor where jungle pressure is like one of the big strengths of TSM in that they can use Santorin to get Bjergsen ahead. So I think that's also like, you know, 2 bans and a first pick on jungle could also be a very important pinch for CLG.
And so you think that, because based on yesterday, we didn't see jungle picks pinched too often. Do you think that's a direction that CLG might go today?
I mean, we saw enemy try and fail. Right, like enemy was like, all right, we're gonna like first pick Gragas, and then oh, right, like Rek'Sai's still there.
It's only good if you're actually pinching the pool.
Right. So I mean, failing at Champion Select aside, I think it really just depends on the teams, right? We've seen teams screw it up. We want to see sort of what the strategy is. My first thought is maybe you try pinching the jungle if Ryze is already banned. If it's not, then it becomes kind of a weird toss-up.
All right, well, we have a few games prior to that matchup, but it's sure to be an exciting one. Over on Twitter, you guys were calling out a number of flashy plays from yesterday's matches. Our first comes from Team Dignitas against TDK. FFG Lord writes, that was a beautiful flash over the chain of corruption. Let's take a look.
That forces TDK off of the base. 15 seconds on a Zingy. Still have some time to wait for him. Oh, he flashes over the chain of corruption, but Seraph goes in with the same idea.
You can see here.
This chain.
Just
nope. Woo! Thank you very much. Here's the shields.
Yeah, Seraph jumps in after that, and everybody's like, we gotta save him! But no.
Yeah, as someone who tries to make flashy plays all the time, if we assume Gabsy did that on purpose, like sometimes it's just like, I want to flash Rune Prison you.
I'm going to say he 100% did that on purpose. The corrupted, the ultimate was already in the air before he flashed.
Yeah, so I think right there, like what Gamsu's doing is like, as soon as I see Varus animate, I'm gonna assume it's the ult and just flash it no matter what. Like, the guy could have piercing guarded me, would have flashed that as well, just like because he's ready to flash Rune Prison the guy. I mean, either way is a great play.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that basically turned what looked like a big run back for TDK into a win for Team Dignitas there. Our next up from Cloud9 versus Gravity, TL Moonbear writes, that flash timing by Keen was ridiculous. Here's your number 2.
Fight begins. Buddy Poo Poo low on health, knocked up by Nautilus. Kill goes to Balls. Incarnation stays alive so far. Keen getting just evaporated. Pops the Zhonya's levitation, flashes out. Balls dies. Great flash by Keen.
Keen jumps in. Remember, he's built to be a frontline TF. So even though Meteos caught him and he got the combo there with Incarnation, they still weren't able to take him out.
Now that one, you know he was just mashing flash. And that has a lot to do with the timings of the people who shot the laser and shot the Arcane Barrage. So props to TSM for that.
Right. But in terms of time wasted there around the Zhonyas for Cloud9, and then on top of that, not securing the kill was a pretty big play in terms of swinging the game for Gravity. Finally, from TSM versus Team Impulse, Coley X3 says Bjergsen with LeBlanc is perfection. It's your number 1 LCS big play.
Dyrus here to help. Santorin is tanky enough, and Wild Turtle here to deal some damage. Bjergsen cuts off Rush, the kick over the wall. Bjergsen just shows back up. Ignite in a Q, not going to give him the kill just yet, but Bjergsen still wants it. All right, that's going to do it. That's going to do it. Bjergsen gets the kill, the solo kill on the Rush.
Yeah, what to do? I've landed my Q, but nowhere to go. All right.
There are 2 total assists for TSM. It's really just Bjergsen and friends running around.
It's honestly nothing for him to do. He's like, I hit it, but even if I connect, it's not an execute range, so run away.
Should have queued Raptors, bro. You
it was down. It was down.
Well, then you shouldn't have cleared the camp a minute and a half ago.
Yeah.
Hindsight.
Come on, bro. Well, with all of those, let's take a peek at the standings to see how the teams are situated after yesterday's games. In first place with an undefeated 3-0 are Counter Logic Gaming and Team Liquid. Then just one game back in third are Gravity, Team Dignitas, and TSM. Holding 1 win and 2 losses are Cloud9, Enemy, and Team Impulse. And in ninth are Team 8 and TDK. Turning to today's schedule, we are starting it off with Cloud9 out to rebound against Team Impulse. Then we'll jump into Team Liquid versus Gravity. After that, buckle up for Counter Logic Gaming versus Team Solo Mid. Now, before we send it over to the casters, we want to ping you guys on Twitter about today's big showdown between CLG and TSM. We've heard the rivalry called many things: El Clasico, the backyard brawl, Goliath versus Goliath, and depending on which side of the feud you're on, Dumpster Palooza. But what nickname do you give the rivalry showdown between CLG and TSM? Send your responses to @LulEsports and throw on the hashtag LCS. We'll be reading a few of our favorites a little later. Now, without further ado, let's head over to the caster desk to get the games underway.
Thanks, Dash. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rivington Biz III, and sharing the caster desk with me is the best-dressed man in esports, Josh Ujat.
See, that just doesn't make sense. You're far better dressed than I am today, Riv.
It's the beard doesn't count as the whole ensemble. You just got it. You got it. Let's get down to business right now with our first match. It's Cloud9 versus Team Impulse. These are two groups that came into the split with a lot of hype and are now in a tie for 6th place with just 1 win.
Yeah, it's true, Riv. Both Cloud9 and TIP, they did finish last split in the top 4. Yeah. So this is definitely a disappointing start. And the fact that they're both 1 and 2 and playing each other right now means that by the end of the week, one of them will be 1 and 3. So that's not good for either team. Looking at Cloud9, it does show that the loss of Phi has had a profound effect on the team's identity. You know, Incarnation, he's played Kog'Maw twice, Victor once, and even just from the champion picks, that's nothing like having Hai in the mid lane. Also, when you look at the stats, he places fewer wards, he doesn't roam as frequently, and instead of being the first one into the fight, he's usually the last one into the fight. Yeah. So it kind of just goes to show that Cloud9 needs to ask themselves if they want Incarnation replacing Hai, or if they need to rebuild their team around Incarnation, because it's clearly a work in progress and something isn't quite in sync yet.
Hopefully it happens early for them. And Team Impulse are fielding the same team that got them to the spring semifinals, but have not been able to recapture the same level of success. We've talked about how Impulse play with kind of a level of disorder, but instead of throwing off their opponents, it's been working against Impulse.
Yeah, it really has. To be fair, though, Impulse has played CLG and TSM for 2 of their losses, but aside from that, they are a team that really count on getting an early game lead and then snowballing that advantage. But the problem comes time and again when they fall behind early because they haven't really shown the level of coordination to stage a big-time comeback. And that's been the problem so far for them this year.
Maybe. Usually it's been their team fights, Shao getting a pentakill or something. But none of those highlights. You just need to light the fuse. Yeah. And Meteos shared with us Cloud9's strategy for handling Tip's chaotic playstyle.
I think that we just have to play a really controlled style game against Tip because they love just going for stuff all the time. And if you can set it up so that stuff they want to go for is harmful to them and you counter it correctly, I think that the game can go really well for us.
I think that the game can go very well, but that's if we can counter them.
Yeah, it's always like, if you do this, then of course we're going to be able to do that. Meteos obviously still searching for some answers in how to run this team, but the strategy for Impulse does seem like the right one.
A little bit of chaos. Let's check out the starting lineups as we get into the game. On the blue side, it is going to be Cloud9. That's Balls in the top lane, Meteos in the jungle, Incarnation in mid lane, Sneaky at AD carry, and Lemonation at support.
Yeah, and then we have the red side with red sleeves on their sweatshirts. Team Impulse, Impact in the top lane, Rush in the jungle, Shao in the mid lane, Apollo and AD carry, and Adrian on support.
The blood of their opponents.
Yeah,
saturating.
That's the dream.
That's the dream.
For those guys.
Hopefully it can come out in a few games. Cloud9 and Impulse here, like we said, both tied for 6 at the moment with that 1 win. And not teams we would expect to be here at the beginning of the split. Usually ones that kind of put their foot down and step out with a surge, but have been found out here, and teams have been able to work around them.
Yeah, really strange opening to the season for Cloud9. Only being able to pick up 1 dragon. They got destroyed by Team Dignitas and Gravity, 2 games that you would expect to be wins on Cloud9's schedule to start the year.
And the win they did get had to squeak by Team Solo Mid in that game.
Yeah, they gave up the first 5 dragons and still were able to win the game, which is a credit to their ability to play from behind and actually have shot calling without having High, but then it just hasn't carried through to any of the other games. Ban-wise as well, TIP found wins with Fizz mid lane and Yasuo top lane. but those have been banned against him in both of their losses. It seems like Impulse actually does want to play Yasuo, but they haven't had the opportunity for it since that game 1.
Something that'll allow them to engage, get in the midst of a fight immediately, whether it's a skirmish or a full 5v5. They want it.
Yeah, they want to be able to fly around, make plays. And once again, Fizz and Yasuo, as well as Alistar. So 3 champions that were victorious for Team Impulse in game 1. Fairly consistent bans against this team now.
Seeing what everybody else is doing, and it's been working. Cloud9's going to use that as their first stitch against TIP here to try and get under their skin. One last ban for Impulse, and that will be the Rek'Sai from Meteos' side. That should easily equal the Gragas, but it also looks like it has swung a Rumble into a first pick along with Lee Sin.
It pretty much dares Cloud9 to pick Gragas by banning away the Rek'Sai. Also, if Rush does want to play Lee Sin, he definitely does not want to play against Rek'Sai. So much of his early pressure can be negated by the Rek'Sai. Also, the fact that if he ever Sonic Waves Rek'Sai, if he's just burrowed, you actually don't connect the second part of your Q on Lee Sin, the Resonating Strike, thanks to Rek'Sai just popping back up out of the ground. But because Cloud9's already picked a jungler, Rush doesn't have to pick his jungler yet, and they can go with 2 power picks for themselves right off the bat.
They do get that Sivir, 4th time in a row for Apollo to pick it up for the team. He's scored just about the same each time, so it's not really the bottom lane that needs a lot of focus in this game. It's going to be what's already been banned out, Xiao, Xiao, and Impact.
Apollo, a very consistent AD carry. He doesn't necessarily make big flashy plays, but he's always there for the team. Sivir fits that pick perfectly. It almost feels like if Impulse has the opportunity to pick Sivir, they will do it every single time. And what actually creates a win or loss for Team Impulse is the performance of Rush in those solo lanes, not necessarily on Apollo or Adrian.
Well, they got their win when he was on Eve, striking fear into everybody on the other side of the map. We haven't seen too much more play of that since the first week of the LCS. A few bans to some teams, but not being on the Rift. Maokai Nautilus going for a pretty tanky lineup here on the side of Cloud9, as it's already right back to Impulse. They didn't waste any time in those picks.
We got ourselves a tank team. For Cloud9. Always priority for them on the Maokai. Being up against Rumble will give Impact a pretty good laning phase if he wants it, and if we don't end up seeing lane swaps. But there's not too much to read into Cloud9's strategy other than Lemonation preferred Nautilus over Thresh, which isn't really a surprise, even though Thresh has seen more priority in the North American LCS. If we go back to the playoffs, Lemonation, the early adopter of Nautilus, very strong on that champion for both the early jungle invades as well as just reliable CC, which has been a cornerstone to whenever Cloud9 has been successful.
He's like a big tanky Morgana a little bit, with a single target ultimate.
A big tanky thing.
A little bit of AoE, a little bit of bind, everything you want in a support player. So let's see what we have. Now, Sejuani's actually picked up here by Rush. Goes for a little bit of tank himself.
Oh boy. So Sejuani's something that Rush hasn't really found success with on the competitive landscape, but he has had a while since the North American playoffs to break this out again in the North American LCS. If they land the Sejuani plus Rumble combo, that's the devastating one, but it will be hard to kind of weave that Glacial Prison through the tank line of Cloud9, because you don't want that thing hitting the tanks.
I was going to say, that almost looks like a Kog'Maw composition if you want to protect one, but it's going to be an Azir and a Lucian coming in here for Cloud9. A lot of people that can be locked up, but harder for a Sejal to hit those 2 guys on the back line through these beefs.
Talking with some of the Cloud9 team members about Incarnation, they say he's put a lot of time into the meta champions, which will pay off for them in the long run. So it's no longer this Cloud9 revolving around Zed and whatever High has been able to pick up. They're playing whatever is meta, and Incarnation is doing his best to do that thing. And it's not going to happen, guys. I'm sorry. Bard is support, and so is Janna. So, sorry about that. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
LeBlanc for Xiao Xiao, definitely something he could carry the game on if he needs to. Matches up decently against Azir. So we are going to have the teams locked in on both sides. Like you said, Cloud9 kind of focusing towards meta picks. It's almost something they did when they started as Cloud9, when they were able to open up that Pandora's box. We go for the strong picks. We just keep playing it and get better at those picks.
Yeah, and if we think back then, it was Cloud9 who was setting the meta picks.
Right.
Instead of reacting to them. The Nautilus is something they started themselves. The rest of them, though, are fairly well set in now, so they don't necessarily have that champ select advantage they used to get on other teams, and now they have to outplay them within the game. This mid lane matchup is very volatile. The Azir versus LeBlanc. We actually got to see it yesterday in the TSM game where Bjergsen against Xiao Xiao, they played the inverse of this matchup. So now Xiao Xiao gets a LeBlanc. We'll see how that ends up working out for him, because a lot of it depends on early gank pressure, but it is very snowbally if one gets ahead.
Very well trained from both sides in respect to this matchup, so it's going to be a good one. Definitely some jungler intervention going to be needed here to throw these guys off our kilter.
That's the hope.
Get them off balance.
Gragas versus Sejuani. Meteos would have the early pressure advantage from a champion perspective, but if we think of the way the players play, it's kind of inverse. So I'm really excited to see who ends up getting the early aggression going.
All right, well, it's time to hit Twitter and let us know who you guys are giving this game to. Tweet hashtag C9win or hashtag TIPwin to @LOL Esports. We'll tally those up, as always, throughout the game. We are getting into Cloud9 versus Team Impulse, both 1 and 2 already as we finish off this second week here of the spring split. They're looking to stop their slide in the standings. We're about to be on the rift, and both teams are about to leave it all. This would be very nice to get this win here, be able to reflect on the mistakes of the week, and come out with a W.
Yeah.
Both teams definitely want to be able to repair the start of their split.
And honestly, this Xiao Xiao versus Incarnation matchup, as they both really just wanted to play some ward. No real kill threat they could provide each other when they're running in there, so just trying to get control of that middle area. We'll talk about the lane matchup in a bit, because there are some definite level 1 shenanigans going on here. I don't necessarily like what Cloud9 is doing here, because they're 5-man invading and they haven't warded the back entrance to their own jungle, so they are getting deep wards into Impulse's red side buff, but they have no control over Impulse doing the same to them. It's just they don't know if that's actually happened or not. Whereas Impulse will know where Cloud9 has been.
Quite a few of those.
Oh, unless this ward sees them.
I was going to say they placed down that base gate ward if they try to dive through that as well. A few more expended here.
It's a lot of pings going down. Everyone's just trying to ping out exactly when the wards went down and how they can plan their movements. So this is really cute. Apollo and Adrian have snuck all the way in, and they pinged where the ward they think it is, so they waited until it died to make their rotation through. Apollo and Adrian really manipulating the fog of war here, so they try not to get spotted on their way up. So this is crazy, because normally if you get those deep wards right there, there's no way for the duo lane to make it into the lane unless they actually make it through the mid lane after the wards have timed out and run up there.
Right.
So when Cloud9 sees Apollo up there, they're going to be very surprised. Just like Balls is very surprised to see a Janna right now. Really clever ward manipulation there, and knowledge of the early game ward placements.
You see the ping going down right now on the side of Impulse at their blue buff. I was just about to say, Jack, this is usually what we see Lemonation doing as he starts to now late walk up into the jungle to see if he can get any vision here or any knowledge of what's going on. Very nicely played here. We've seen a few things in the early game that teams are trying to switch up and throw the other one off guard.
Especially against Cloud9. Gravity had a tremendous level 1 against them as well.
Right move.
I want to see how Cloud9 responds to this, because it looks like they're kind of out of options. Lemonation thought about walking up into the jungle to harass, but he was too late for that, because he wasn't expecting that formation just based on the spot of the AD carry. So take a very small advantage for Team Impulse from the start when they got to see where Cloud9 invaded, and then they just use that information to then mind game Cloud9, and it will give them a nice start in this lane swap.
Wow. Incarnation putting the hurting on Xiao Xiao in the mid lane. This is going to give the rest of Cloud9 a little bit of safety, especially Meteos to do what he needs in the jungle if Rush is actually going to have to be taking care of Xiao Xiao here. He'll heal up for now, but good pressure. And Cloud9 actually starts to go for this dragon.
Yeah.
Elimination going to be here.
They should be able to get it.
Yep.
Just fine. Very interesting choice here by Cloud9 to take the dragon. Because basically, if we compare this to what happened yesterday against Gravity, when there was no freeze in the duo lane for the opponent.
Nice Dragon.
Yeah, great Dragon. When there was no freeze for the opponent, Cloud9 tried to beat them to the rotation, but they were so far behind at this time, and the fact that the map was swapped around, that instead of trying to get the experience in this lane that Apollo and Adrian are farming, they just go straight for the Dragon. What that basically means is Cloud9 will be further behind in experience as well as gold because of that Dragon, but that will even out throughout the rest of the game as we get 15-20 minutes in because of the additive stat bonuses of the 6% attack damage and ability power. So therefore, Impulse does still have maybe an even bigger edge because Cloud9 took that Dragon right now, but that will start equalizing in the mid-game.
Well, calling from behind is what Meteos has kind of had to do, so he's only going to get better at it. He said it was a bit troublesome, but with High being the shot caller previously, when things did go wrong, it would fall back onto Meteos. So he's ready for the task. He's going to try to provide for the team here. Could be tough. See how Tip starts to pressure what they've had here in the early game. We're only 5 minutes in, and not too much has affected the lanes out of this jungle pressure just yet. Ball's back to the bottom. There's the swap coming in from Apollo and Adrian. They're going to head back down towards the bottom lane. Adrian doing a little roaming before this so he can get some safety and wards on the map.
Yeah, we could really end up seeing some accelerated turret kills depending on where the supports roam next, whether the supports decide to stay in the duo lanes and try and shove down the level 3 top laners, or if they start roaming mid to try and tilt that matchup. As far as the effect of roam, Lemon Nation is much more threatening than Adrian right now. John is more about disengage and protection, whereas Nautilus can go and mess somebody up. Maybe we'll see a very late dive here. Big wave stacking, and Rush nowhere to be found.
Oh, he did just...
When they see that ward, Rush has to basically just rush up there and try and stop this from happening.
Arctic assaulted right back in the other direction. Goes through on the red buff side as well, so he doesn't get hit by the Tri-Brush. Teleport coming in from Balls here. On to Impact. He goes down 4 in the top lane for Cloud9. First blood to Meteos.
Yep. Nice reaction there by Cloud9, sending people up there. Rush was late to that spot. So was Adrian. So Cloud9 completely beats them that rotation. Impact can't get out in time.
Now with that call, are you trying to just buy time and hope your team gets there? Or should he have just left?
Yeah, basically, Impulse didn't have the wards there to know that it was happening until it was too late. Yeah. Because by the time he spotted the people diving him, he wouldn't have had time to teleport away. And the wave was so huge that he's actually okay dying and teleporting back right away, because that's the best Impact could hope from a 1v4 dive.
Just a few steps ahead for Cloud9. Turn into a first blood 6.5 minutes in, so the Dragon as well going to be on top of that. They took out bottom turret, and the top may be theirs before Tip can grab their next one. We do see Apollo is still beaten down on the bottom lane. He is just getting a lot of free farm to himself, but still even with Sneaky right now. Incarnation is putting damage onto Xiao. Xiao still. Pink ward seen by Lemon Nation as he gets that roam on, trying to get some of that dredge line placed onto the LeBlanc. Going to be a tough gank for them, but they still want to at least blow his flash and rinse and repeat. Cloud9, 65 to 35% there. The fans definitely still backing the new squad with Incarnation.
Yeah, now that level 6 is hit, Xiao can definitely get off a little bit more poke by ulting his W.
You can see Meteos hover in mid, low mana for Incarnation here. Elimination
it's a really
is there
tough
as well.
spot to be in, to be that low on mana and still try and stick in lane. You're putting your team at actually somewhat of a disadvantage if you can't trade back. That's why he's really conserving his mana right here.
He actually has a potion. Maybe he's trying to bait in and engage with the guys being around him in that instance. Nothing coming of it just yet. No skirmishes to be had here early in the game. A top lane gank onto Impact is all they've had. He now gets the support of Adrian. And a little bit of damage trade here going in the favor of Cloud9 as they keep the pressure on this top turret, making it hard for Impact to get farmed. 25 to 25 for each of those top lanes.
They're trying to use their level advantage right here to take down this turret. I mean, because they out-rotated for this dive, Cloud9 really having the opportunity to pull off some early game moves, since Rush and Adrian haven't been able to do much yet with any of their roam. I mean, the early game jungle pressure, Meteos being able to pick up first blood, but it's more about just the rotation and the positioning on the map that's got him this edge. Again, Rush spends some time looking mid lane, but doesn't even go for it.
Xiao back in after trying to get an ulti on. The early game not working out with the lane swap for Impulse as much as they would have liked. 400 gold down now. They did get the first turret, but Cloud9 was able to grab turret Dragon. The first blood as they rotated back to the top lane, as we were just saying. Everything's kind of slowed down, gated by 30 seconds on this next Dragon. But they may just hit top lane once again. If they can get Impact down, he'll never even have anything to get to these Dragon fights and help in the objectives with Rumble ulti. It's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
We're talking about top and the mid lane really being what needs to get going for Impulse. Not happening this game so far.
And what Cloud9 is getting most of their advantages off of is just this top lane strength, and that's transitioning into ward control and buff control. Basically, right there, there was no vision for Team Impulse, and to prevent a second dive onto Impact, Rush just basically had to run up there and play defense. But when doing that, he exposed his own red buff, which was very quickly taken by Meteos. So you can just see by the ward spread on the map right now how advantageous this position is for Cloud9.
Playing it very safe as well, not over-diving in their attempts with all this knowledge that they have. And once again, rinse and repeat towards the top lane. A good hook onto Adrian. No 6 there, so no Janna disengage. And just a 6 for Impact. He may use that ultimate that's actually already gone down right behind Cloud9. They're going to nicely take down Impact. No! That's stun up beautifully by Rush. A double kill, however, coming in for Sneaky. They do finish it off as he dives through and goes deep, but Rush doing everything he can this game, always pulled to the top side.
Yeah, and he's always just a little bit late.
Right.
Meteos and the rest of Cloud9 are far ahead of Impulse in their communication right here, and that dive was just not even super clean by Cloud9, but by the time, it was actually really unfortunate for Rush when he threw out a Sejuani ultimate, because no one currently had the turret aggro to get trapped by the Glacial Prison, which then made the rest of the dive pretty easy. So now a turret advantage as well as a nice kill advantage, all thanks to just beating Impulse to the spot.
You were saying a bit earlier, Jat, they were using that level advantage to just consistently push down the turret, and they had a level advantage as soon as they did that engage as well. A Monsoon probably would have stopped that entire engage, but Adrian's still level 5.
Yeah.
3-0 now, coming up on 11 minutes into the game, and now a 2K gold lead here for Cloud9. If Meteos did say he kind of had some trouble calling from behind, these guys now have the advantage of calling from the lead. Incarnation back to mid now with the blue. Looks like he could put some pressure onto Xiao, who has not grabbed his yet.
Yeah, Incarnation was able to complete Morellonomicon, whereas Xiao is still sitting on the components. Neither of these guys are actually going for the magic resist build. Incarnation himself is sitting with some magic resist in his blue runes as well as Xiao, so not what happened yesterday where Xiao was just staring magic resist in the face and saying no and then getting one shot again and again. He has magic resist this time, but it creates a slightly more defensive early game. But then they just go ahead and build the offensive item with Morellonomicon instead of the Athenes.
Well, this Dragon's been up for a while, but with Rush in the top lane, as well as Meteos, we haven't seen too much play around it. Looks like Tip wants to start that vision control once again. And we do see Impact in the mid lane here, so expect this is going to come to be quite quick.
But this has kind of been the story for Team Impulse in the games they've lost. The crazy aggression and the playmaking that Rush was able to display last split, and we thought he'd be able to display this split thanks to him getting rank 1 on the Korean solo queue ladder in the small offseason. But aside from that one game on Evelynn, he's just not been able to make plays. He's tried. He's played Evelynn, Lee Sin, and now Sejuani. Just a little bit slow to these things, and now they're just straight up starting the Dragon. Cloud9 does not have Azir, so they are not contesting. Sivaralt coming down, they're trying to force.
They should get Lemon Nation on this one. The rest of the team kind of in a think I can help him, but they should not have thought that. Meteos could also go down. The teleport from Balls a little far away, and they are just walking on the red carpet. Equalizer coming in from Impact. On to Impact now. A great hit into the fight. That's going to be Sneaky coming up with a few kills for himself. balls as well onto Apollo. It only took a few seconds for them to get resituated for that one, but Cloud9's able to turn it around after Impulse looks for too much.
Yeah, there was a big turning point in that fight when Equalizer hit at the same point as Monsoon. So Adrian and Impact not necessarily in sync. It neutralized their own Equalizer. And then the late arrival to the fight in Incarnation really turned the tide right there. Even though that fight was beneficial for Cloud9 in the long run, I think it kind of spoke to both teams not quite being up to how strong they should be. You know, first off, Cloud9 not having Incarnation there in the first place to mount the assault, and secondly, Impulse messing up their Monsoon and Equalizer timing, which then allowed Incarnation to turn the fight around at the end. But when all is said and done, it means more kills for Cloud9.
See it happen one more time here.
Yeah, it's a great job by Team Impulse to say, let's fight right now, when they see the choke point. But there's really no reason to Janna ulti right now. What's he actually knocking back? Meteos wasn't even in the middle of a spell. All he did is make Sneaky not have to dash out of the Equalizer. Then when Incarnation dives in, that would be a great time to have Equalizer, because you want to be able to heal your team as they're knocked back and prevent the re-engage from Cloud9. But of course, he just burned the cooldown, and it spells disaster for Impulse.
It's that chaos, once again, they thrive on that also beats them up most of the time. A few ultimates that just do not sync up, and Impulse come off of a dragon with a few members down. Cloud9 can go ahead, set up wards, and clear. Not this one, though. Good pressure by Impulse as it's 5-1 now, 15 minutes in. That gold lead was actually still stretched by Cloud9 within that fight, even though Tip got dragon. But they do prevent number 2, help in the long run if this game gets to that point. This turret should be going down. Looks like they're just going to brute force it here. Not much Cloud9 can do. Everybody's ults are still kind of coming back up.
I do have to point back to the very start of this game, though. Just off the first dragon that Cloud9 was able to get. Because to start the North American LCS split, Cloud9 gave up the first 12 dragons to their opponents before they were able to get one. So it definitely feels like there was a definite point of focus for Cloud9 to get dragon control this game. Because they were presented with a set of choices early on in the game, whether they try and match the minions in the lane swap or take the dragon.
Right.
And they very clearly and without hesitation took the dragon. So I actually do like that adaptation from Cloud9 to get it early.
An explosion onto Sneaky. Can they even rebuttal this? I don't think so. He goes down. They're going to have to wait for him to come back up. Can Impulse get anything out of this, though? It's going to be Impact in the top lane, maybe some forward wards to be placed. But so far, I guess that's just a mark on the board for them. Getting a little bit back.
That was a slight lapse of awareness by Sneaky because they had no vision control in the side lane brush. But I also understand why he was able to get caught out right there, because basically Xiao and Rush had both jumped over the wall to get into that brush. Cloud9 did think they had the entrances warded. I think that's how they got in there. I'll go back and double check, but now they're going to clear out that pink ward because having that side brush control against the Blanc is incredibly pivotal.
It paid for itself. Return on investment for that pink ward for sure. Cloud9 grouping a little bit in the mid lane here. Xiao looking to see if he can get a pick, but he's about to get pinched himself. Should have an easy escape with the distortion as he sees. Oh no, he finds Sneaky on the back line. He had his eyes on the target the entire time. Not really scared about where balls was going on that one. Xiao looking to bring out a little bit of that spark play and create some highlights. Just short of the kill onto Sneaky.
Yeah, that could have been a huge kill if they shut him down again. Actually,
yeah, he just got back.
I went back and checked the Sneaky kill again. It wasn't that clever by Team Impulse.
Sounded so good.
Rush had walked through a ward before dashing into that brush, and Xiao walked into the mid lane, so he was covered in fog. But Sneaky knew there, should have known, because it was shown on the minimap that Sejuani was there, and he still walked through the danger spot. So uncharacteristic free kill there onto Sneaky by walking where he shouldn't have. Cloud9 still though with a 2,000 gold edge.
Almost getting his second death there as well, as they knew his flash was down. Good focus by Xiao. Missing a little bit of a window, so we'll have to wait again. See if Cloud9, that came off of Cloud9's kind of positional mistake. I don't think they're going to be doing that too much more here, so it's going to be harder for Impulse. Still pushing mid for these guys. It's going to be Balls taking care of that top lane. He just got his teleport back, so he can come back with the team, which is why he's off in the distance. Looks like they want to get more Dragon control. Number 3 coming up in the game, 1 for each team so far.
And there's a huge level discrepancy between Rumble and Maokai right now.
Wow.
It's level 8 to level 11. And you can see it in the CS as well. Which is pretty crazy when you consider that Cloud9 also prioritized early Dragon. So they've been playing this lane swap incredibly well in the favor of their own top laner. This Dragon will be very critical to how well Cloud9 plays. We need to watch to see if Incarnation is synced up with the rest of the team. Azir has tremendous zone control over the Dragon Pit, but so does Rumble and Sejuani. The fact that the Rumble is under-leveled is a bit of a disadvantage. This is also the period of the game where Cloud9, with high, would usually excel. Last year, Cloud9 played very normal speed early games, and they excelled in the mid-game. Let's see if they can catch Xiao here. This is the start of a fight.
Lockdown, the engage is already there. The damage from Impulse actually gets out. Xiao is alive. The blue buff is on him, so they can still throw out some chains and poke it, but I'm sure they just want to turn tide on this one and get out. Dragon is going to be Cloud9's pretty much uncontested on this one, but definitely a miss or an error there for Impulse.
Yeah, Xiao pushing the split push a little bit too far, and the team pays the price by giving up this Dragon. He was somehow able to escape, mainly because LeBlanc gets to dash across the map, but he lost most of his life, his ultimate, and his flash, as well as his Sivir ultimate. They go out the Dragon, and maybe more because they had to back afterwards.
Those soldiers, so much damage to the turret, being cast directly on it. They're easily able to take that down. And looks like it's going to be a back and a breather here for Cloud9 as they get some more items in the inventory. Being set back, Impact 40 CS behind, rushed that Leandries and actually just got his boots finished. So those fights at the Dragon could still be pretty big, like you were saying, with a good Sejuani ultimate. Scary stuff that Cloud9 has to deal with and dance around. See if they can actually get some hit on the balls here. Impact is floating his way down, but I think it's going to be just a few seconds too late.
Impact just needs a way to get experience. He's 3 levels back. I don't agree with the way Impulse is sharing creeps right there. So Impact should have got that giant bottom wave, even if he's sharing it with Xiao. When you share experience in League of Legends, you get a bonus multiplier. One person taking experience, if you think of that like 100% experience across people. If 2 people are there for the minion wave, it's around 130% experience. So sharing experience, by its nature, creates more experience for your team. So you should actually almost never solo take a wave. You should almost always duo take a wave to level up faster, especially when you have someone so far behind the curve like Impact, who missed out on that huge wave entirely. Xiao mopped it all up. Now they have a level 13 LeBlanc, but still not a rank 2 ultimate on Rumble. That would be nice right there.
Impact throws it down. Rushes right in the front of this one. Can they even get anything on it? You saw Apollo use the Sivir ultimate to get everybody out. Sej still forced to flash over the wall, and I was going to say, they're doing all of this so Xiao can allow them to create pressure, and they're still being pressured, but he does come up with a kill for himself here.
He solo killed Maokai.
I didn't think that was going to be able to happen, actually.
I guess that's why you take a whole wave of minions for yourself. Yeah, he just blew him up on the side of it, so that's actually not a disastrous change for Impulse, but that's only thanks to Xiao creating some split push pressure. Balls will, once he picks up Magic Resist, might be able to deal with that a little bit better.
Be careful, low mana here. Cloud9 trying to get just a little bit more out of these instances. They're going to head back once again. Let's see this fight in the bot lane. Oh, so he was a little hurt, but he still even had the... Oh. He was window shopping for the fight with that teleport on.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
He was definitely thinking about where he could TP into because Cloud9 had such strong ward control in that red buff of Impulse, but no ward control where Xiao was roaming around.
Good forward wards by Cloud9. They have all the vision they need on the top side of the map. Looks like Impulse is going to start heading down towards the bottom side once again, hopefully trying to use the Xiao split push. Actually, Impact's able to get his own in the top lane now, so it's not going to be too bad. Looks like he's got a wave and a half that he'll get safely here.
He's still not level 11.
That's true, not even second level ultimate there.
Such a key break point. Now he just hits it when he finally gets that own. bit of experience. Next fight may end up being different for Impulse, since Xiao was able to get that kill and they finally hit the Rumble breakpoint. Once again, these teams are both fairly well set up for Dragon fights, except we haven't gotten to see a straight-up Dragon fight because no one's been cohesive in their rotation so far this game.
Skirmish for one member, then a team has to back off.
Yeah.
Incarnation definitely having a much better mid lane game by himself here. Those games of Kog'Maw and Victor seemed like he was a bit too measured in his play, but with the soldiers being able to stay back, he's not afraid to kind of put himself a little bit closer here. We've already seen that in a few of the Dragon engages that they've had. And now the team once again trying to pressure the mid lane. Xiao back to the bottom, may have to call more pressure, but the team of Cloud9 may use this to fight.
Yeah, they're actually kind of trading sides of the map pressure-wise right now because Cloud9 has ward coverage in the red buff of Tip, and likewise, Tip has ward coverage in the red buff of Cloud9. And there's no one who can really deal with the LeBlanc 1v1. So therefore, Cloud9 actually has to make some pretty risky decisions right now. They're the ones losing the split push battle, but winning the team fight battle. And we're seeing those two forces fight against each other in this game right now.
Well, here comes the side swipe from Xiao. They know he's coming, but they may actually just still try to take this fight off of the chase.
All it takes is Lemonation and get in range of his ultimate. That's what happened last time to crush Xiao.
So the pressure works to pull him off of mid lane. It's just a game of tug of war now, really, between both teams. Who's going to get the better engage as they're pulling each other around in the rotations. Luden's Echoes have been finished for the AP carries. A little bit more burst for them to add into the fights. Infinity Edge is going to be for Apollo with the Phantom Dancer. Sneaky went for the Static Shiv this game, so a little bit of damage difference there.
Yeah, a bit of a lapse in pressure here for Impulse, which is why Xiao has to back away. Mainly Impact ran top lane, so he has teleport threat but no immediate threat. And instead of pushing mid lane, Cloud9 decided to go chase after Xiao. So we're basically just seeing these teams neutralize each other's strengths in preparation for this next Dragon fight, which could result in pulling people together. Cloud9, though, does have what seems like the stronger team fight right now, especially if Incarnation can position properly on his ear. Here comes Tip, though. Big Dragon fight.
Xiao in for a little bit of vision. Two-man ultimate. Sneaky's actually on the front there. Now he's forcing the Dragon Pit, and Dragon's attacking him. A good hit from Apollo takes him down. Now onto Incarnation. Apollo is just chucking the boomerangs. He gets a double kill on the priority targets of the fight. And now it's Xiao who's still alive, and he's going to be hitting up more teammates. Nice, or rather, opponents, I should say, taking down Meteos.
Wow.
All the members of Impulse come out alive on that.
Yeah, Impulse just completely changed the game with that fight. Rush was able to walk into basically melee range of Lucian and land a Glacial Prison, which then was comboed with the Rumble. That's the combo they've been trying to pull off this entire time. Liandry's 2 ranks in Equalizer Rumble with a giant Sejuani ultimate starts that fight off in a big way, and there was no way Cloud9 was winning that fight afterwards. There was no zone set up by Incarnation's Azir to stop Rush from walking in, which is why that fight was so one-sided in the side of Impulse. They just took complete control of this game with that.
It's like the dash-in from Xiao confused them enough for Rush.
Look at this.
Waltz in.
Incarnation has to control choke points on Azir. If anything, if Cloud9 is going to force this Dragon as 5 people, Azir has to be in the back of the pit so he can prevent the entrance. Impulse can run in for free. Incarnation isn't zoning anybody off with those spells, and Impulse just walks away with the complete crushing in a team fight because the front line wasn't being aligned. They were just being dudes spread across the map. Allows Sneaky to die almost instantly. Xiao gets free reign over his targets. And yeah, they get the Dragon after that as well. Baron, Dragon, and a big team fight win.
Get a little credit to Adrian there. Nice monsoon during that shifting sands to keep our Incarnation completely on the outside. Great plays all around, and that's why the entirety of Impulse stayed alive that fight. Coming out strong. They are biding their time, getting pushed in by Cloud9, but they knew Xiao had the upper hand. Always split pushing, roaming back to peel the pressure, and now back to getting that split push on. We'll see if Impulse can now work off of this and start to get that mid lane pressure on.
Yeah, and Xiao's hit a huge item power spike here with his Void Staff as well.
Yeah.
He was already killing balls, so now the magic resist he puts in is being shredded through by the Void Staff, meaning he can still crush him in that split push. There is still no one to deal with Xiao, but now he has Baron-empowered minions. And the team fight threat has hit its point for Impulse. Still no zones being set up by Incarnation's Azir. Once again, something is just out of sync for Cloud9. The team cohesion has not built up yet. They had the early game shot calling this time, but instead, where Cloud9 thrived the most in the past, in the mid game with a lead, Cloud9 has lost that lead pretty substantially, ballooning to a 5,000 gold deficit now.
Things not working in their favor. Usually what we just saw is where they come back. Cloud9 excelled in team fights. Very calm communication, one guy chatting after the other, not chaotic, and they come out on top.
And it's where it's not only they'd come back in games, they'd crush people in games.
Yeah.
If we think back to 2014, in the summer split there, I know it's kind of going a far ways back, but it's a very relevant stat. They were the best team in North America. If they had a gold lead going into 20 minutes, they won something like 16 of 17 of their games. They almost never gave up those gold leads. This time they had a Dragon advantage and a gold lead and a kill lead and a good tank line for some substantial damage dealers in the back, and they were spread out. They allowed Impulse to create chaos on them, and now again Cloud9 has to play heavily from the back foot.
Heavily from the back foot. I was just looking at Adrian, who's going to keep them on the back foot now. Ardent Sensor, along with his Talisman of Ascension. Is that our first in the LCS? I don't even know. I think we've actually seen him.
So Ardent Sensor was changed recently. It now not only grants attack speed, but it grants magic damage on hit for 6 seconds. 30 magic damage on hit for 6 seconds. You normally don't see it because for a couple hundred more gold, you can buy a Mikhail's.
Right.
Which I guess they trust Apollo's ability to spell shield at this point, and they just want him to rip people apart from the back line.
Well, it only took him a few hits to take down Incarnation once he found him with those auto attacks. Didn't even have to really get a boomerang in. Pretty much a ricochet boomerang onto Sneaky's what took him out after the Sejal. So
yeah,
Impalo,
he'll be hitting really hard.
And he's got the Wrath Potion on top of that. Playing with fire.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
And the worst part is the rest of Impulse was there ready to defend him. So as soon as Xiao was back to base, Cloud9 could have Righteous Gloried right in there for a team fight. They have two of them and probably just taken the fight.
Yeah, double Righteous.
But they didn't see him go back, so they didn't know that. Did they see him go back? I'm not sure. Didn't look like it.
Might have been just.
There's a ward in that brush right now, but I feel like that ward was.
Oh, you're right. It only looks like it has.
It was probably placed afterwards.
It was after.
Yeah. That's what happened.
You are correct, sir. Impulse now back on Cloud9's side of the map. It was the other way around for the first 20 minutes of the game here. And like you said, Jack, quite interesting. Cloud9 fell behind with that early lead at 20 minutes, having more gold and still not being able to control the game.
It's the opposite of what we'd expect from these teams.
Yeah.
Pre-15 minutes, last split, Cloud9 had the lowest kills and deaths of teams because they played very subdued, and then they had some of the greatest differentials in kills over deaths between 15 and 30 minutes. Impulse was the other way around, where they had incredibly bloody, good, higher kills than death, 0 to 15 minutes, and then all chaos broke loose in the mid-game. Impulse, tons of kills, tons of deaths. This time, though, it's the controlled early game with Impulse coming ahead in the mid-game. We got new teams now, it seems.
To add on to that, the past 30 minutes, Impulse, again, excels in kills. Well, I wouldn't say again, but they start to. They figure out the game. They get into their fight mode, which usually would be tough against Cloud9, the team that pretty much played together for over 100 games, came through challenge together. That's a lot of synergy to lose, especially when the voice is the one that stepped backwards. So Impulse's best chance now with that lead is to take down Cloud9 to stop their fall in the standings. Very close to getting impact there. Luden's Echo proc along with that soldier.
But immediately, Xiao all on his own in that bottom lane. He makes Cloud9 come back right away. He might even get enough damage down to take this turret out.
This is back to what we used to see from these guys. Whether he was on Kassadin, he does this on the Yasuo, now on the LeBlanc. He's feeling good. He's in his environment that he's used to being in here in the game. And I'm sure the team feels very, very safe along with this happening. Wards all over the map. Impulse actually has wards all up to the wall of C9's base right now, so it's going to be hard for them to come up with anything that Impulse doesn't know about.
It's more and more looking like it's Impulse's game. They were looking out of sorts early, but they've definitely come together here.
Uncontested number 3 with Baron in 20 seconds.
Yeah, we're going to end up seeing maybe a bit of a trade here. Cloud9 trying to rush up the mid lane, but it's just too fast right now. The low cooldown on Talisman, it's only a 40-second cooldown. Add in support masteries, it goes down to about 32 seconds. Adrian just popping that freely. It's crushing the map rotations right now. The Captain Boots Janna with Talisman is making it so Cloud9 cannot out-rotate pretty much anywhere. Xiao is still down there. This is bad. This is desperation from Cloud9. There's probably enough time for the LeBlanc to come up here as well. Basically, Cloud9 has to run immediately.
This is going to be really tough. Rush still has that ultimate available. Doesn't want to throw it right into somebody's face. Could hit the full team here. A nice hit back by the Emperor's Divide. Impact and Rush in a bad spot here. Incarnation takes a few shots coming in from Apollo, and he goes down immediately as Cloud9 starts to get wiped out in this fight. Everything was focused on Rush, and he made that happen by putting himself in the front of the fight. A good hit by Xiao for the triple kill. Apollo for one more, but it's going to be taken over by Adrian as they get the ace on Cloud9 at the Baron pit.
Yeah, there's already an exposed inhibitor in the bottom lane, but Impulse doesn't have time to go down there right now, so they'll take the Baron. That was a very disappointing end to a series of outplays by Team Impulse, where basically Cloud9 throws their hands up in the air, says, no way we can deal with LeBlanc, YOLO Baron. But that doesn't work in the LCS. Impulse easily collapses down onto Cloud9, and they are crushing them now with their second Baron in the game.
Great fight. Rush putting himself in an ideal position here as we see this again.
Yeah, well, first off, the team that is down thousands and thousands of gold shouldn't be taking early Baron damage to then peel, especially against a disengaged Janna. So Impulse doesn't even need to play their cards just right. Also, Incarnation shoots people into the fight instead of out of the fight, so Cloud9 can't play the kite back game either, like a Gragas Azir disengage. So many things are contradictory to a cohesive plan for Cloud9. Everyone seems to be doing their own thing. And Impulse is better at the game of people doing their own thing, making it look like Impulse is very well coordinated here. Ardent Censor Apollo in the back line with Sivir crushing people down.
It definitely helped that fight. You see how much damage is hitting Incarnation when he just takes a few auto attacks. It completely changes where his positioning has to be in the fight. Usually he doesn't even have time to do that. 12-7, Impulse definitely turning the game around after 30 minutes. The stats do not lie. They once again go high kills over low deaths in their fights. And once again, Cloud9 is going to go for broke in front of the base. That's going to be Impact going down. He got the equalizer out, but it's only in between the champions. Now, Sneaky, one last hit. The distortion back actually takes balls into a bad spot. And Xiao brings him in for the next treat. They're going to go on to the inhibitor. These plays are just not in favor of Cloud9 as much as they're trying.
Yeah, it's going to be game. It takes 36 minutes. Once Impulse got the lead, they hammered it home. Much better performance from Xiao.
66,000 to 53. A very good 8-0-5 LeBlanc from Xiao as Team Impulse take down Cloud9.
This moves Impulse to 2-2, which at the start of the year isn't even that impressive.
Yeah.
The worst trend, though, is Cloud9, even after beating TSM with the first game of the split, now sits at 1-3. So Impulse back on the road, it seems. Xiao got his assassin play, was able to farm and carry top CS in the game, 380, top kills in the game, 8, without a death. Pretty awesome game from him. He created the opportunity for Impulse when they were behind, 2 split push, and that just started everything because that allowed them to outpace Cloud9, who couldn't keep up with a split force of shot calling.
Impulse taking it in, the fans loving the victory here, and I'm sure they are going to be able to breathe a sigh of relief knowing that they're able to take down Cloud9 at this point. Another mark in the win column for them, and for Cloud9, they have to think of, what to do next. They're kind of always undermined now towards the middle part of the game. We saw it as well before, or we said as well before, the TSM game was kind of a squeaker in that sense. They're always looking for teams' errors.
There's a lot of growing to do for this new Cloud9 squad with Incarnation instead of High. And to speak from some personal experience as a shot caller, when I played League with Dignitas, I was a shot caller. When I played previous games in Guild Wars, it was an 8-man team, and we had a double shot calling system. Shot calling is this really complex thing. It's not as simple as just having one person knowing where things could go and being able to tell everyone on the map where to go. There's too many decisions in League of Legends for that to happen. And it's you need time to get everyone on the same page and know what the shot call is going to be. And also, even if Meteos was doing a lot of shot calling on the previous team, transferring over to someone who is vocal to someone who is quiet creates a big gap in communication, because a lot of times you can have a primary shot caller, which sometimes was designated as Meteos, but to have another voice of authority, like High, who in certain situations could overrule Meteos or who could bounce ideas off about how to win the game. If you have someone else in there, and I'm not saying Incarnation can't do this, it's just it's not displaying on the Rift that's happening. Unless you have someone like that with a high level of trust, especially in split push situations where you need to have a lot of back and forth communication, without having time for that to set in or trust for that to set in, or people that are vocal enough for that to happen, you're going to run into some big issues. And that's what's starting to look like is happening with Cloud9.
Absolutely. From my personal experience in that sense, real quick, second guessing is the thing that tears that apart as well. And that's one that stems right from that, second guessing your calls. To see what the pros have to say on that match, let's send it down to Kobe, who's with Team Impulse's support.
Thanks, Riv. That's right. I am here with Adrian after their victory. Congratulations. Now, a lot of people always talk about chaos when you're talking about Team Impulse games. I want to know, what is the communication actually like, in game for Team Impulse?
Just fighting. Like, Xiao always wants to fight.
So it is chaos. All right. Now, the preparation that you guys have coming into the games, though, preparing for lane swaps or level 1 stuff like that, what is the preparation like for your team? How early do you guys start that?
We started usually the day before, actually. And it's we have a special plan for each team, and Rush does most of it. Rush is the mastermind.
He's the mastermind?
Mastermind, yeah.
All right. Well, you guys also, as a bottom lane, not a lot of people talk about you guys when they're talking about Team Impulse. You get overlooked sometimes, especially with a lot of the hyped bottom lanes in the North American LCS. What do you think is your biggest strength that you guys bring to the team?
We're consistent. We never lose lane, but we never win. But we don't need to lose. We don't lose.
That's a good thing to bring. Never lose lane. All right, we are going to send it back over to the guys at the desk.
Thank you, Kobe. Now tip 2-2. Cloud9 1-3. Not the best start for them. Looking at how this developed, though, Xiao picking the LeBlanc into his ear, which is the reverse of the matchup that he had yesterday against Bjergsen, works out much better for him this time. So it seems like having that more aggressive, assassin-oriented champion that allows him to put that split push pressure on the map is more where he wants to live.
I mean, that's always been Xiao's style. I mean, we're looking at the bans against TIP, and it's Yasuo and Fizz, and it has been for the last 3 games. These are the things that Xiao plays. Remember, last split, he had a great win over TSM where he played Kassadin. That's the type of champions we see Xiao do well. And as much as people say, well, the meta is team fighting mages, if your team functions playing things off meta, I realize LeBlanc is common, but stay with me here. But if you're playing these more individualistic champions and that works for you, then great, stick with it. And I think that's a very good thing for Team Impulse overall.
Yeah, I know he wants to play the Azir though, and have more team fight coordination. Like I said, I ran into him in solo queue, and I was like, why are you in my ELO? He's dropped 200 points from playing Azir and losing a whole bunch of games. Yeah. I was like, he's definitely trying to learn this champion and pick it up so he can expand that pool.
And that makes sense. I mean, TSM tried to do that last split as well, where they're like, all right, we realize all these things work, and we know Bjergsen, Karras, and LeBlanc. Let's learn Lysandre. Let's learn these other things. So I understand the growth aspect of it and wanting to do other things. And I guess you can balance sticking with your identity versus learning other ones.
Yeah, I think what it ultimately does is it calls into question his pick yesterday, as opposed to taking the Kassadin, because you pointed out Kassadin fits into that wheelhouse of how Xiao wants to play. It was available to him, would have been a fine pick in that scenario, didn't go with it. So more so, his pick today is a comment on yesterday than today itself. Sure. As the game develops, though, one thing I want to point out here is that Cloud9's early game did seem much better, was much better, not seemed. It was much better than it has been in the last few games as they got out to an early lead. They secured their dragon. They dealt with this split push the lane swap pretty well, got those early turret dives.
And the level 1 from Cena overall, and just sort of like the first 5-ish minutes of the game, looks like a standard rehearsed level 1. Like, you and I played on a team together, and like, I would just go watch LCS VODs, look at everywhere the jungler and top laner went, and be like, okay, we can literally just copy CLG's jungle route and take a dragon and kill a turret. And like, we rehearsed that in like 5v0 games, and it's good that C9's clearly able to still do that without high in there, like they've learned like other level 1 setups. The question still comes in, like, what happens when people gum up the works, right? TIP didn't do anything special compared to like what we've seen like Gravity do, where they had really awesome level 1s where they counterplayed it, and so that's still something you've got to see tested from C9.
There's also, once you get away from the routine and you hit that mid game, which TIP kind of has a really bloodbath type of style, and C9 more controlled. C9, they're kind of falling away from the controlled style. Like Meteos, he seems like one of those guys, and like you said, we played on a team before, where I'm also like that, where at the beginning of the game, I will know what to do, but then as the game pans out, you're like, okay, I am a resource that I need to be directed towards. Like, do you need me top? Do you need me bottom? I'm not going to ask you, please call for me, right? I'm going to farm camps. I'm going to look for things, sort of. But what are you on the same page with me as? And that's the communication that I think they're lacking, is Meteos stepping up as the shot caller. How much is he tapping into his laners? How much information is everybody giving him that he can work off of? Because he seemed to be a resource-type player when Hive was around. Now he is...
Yeah, he's got to be proactive.
He needs resources into him.
Right, exactly. And we see some of that breakdown of communication 26 minutes into the game here. We're going to pull up our replay. Freak's going to take this one away, but around the Dragon Pit, this is the turning point of the game.
And exactly. This is a big lead for C9. They're starting the Dragon. Impulse are, like, flooding in. The teleport's coming in, and C9 needs to make a choice. They've got enough engaged with Nautilus and Gragas to pick one side of the fight and go for it, but the problem is C9 lets Impulse do what they want. Show pokes, okay, Impact's on one side, the AD carries the other, Incarnation peels out and gets himself surrounded, and now Impulse can just collapse into the C9 team that never did anything. Despite the fact that C9 have the wards despite everything out, a bunch of great AoE damage comes out, and Incarnation is supposed to peel for Sneaky, ults after Sneaky's already dead. Apollo simply sidesteps it, gets out of soldier range, so Incarnation can't even fight back. And this is C9 not having the, 4 seconds ago should have been the proactive call to say, we're going to peel off and go on this guy. And with Nautilus and Gragas, you can kill a Janna, or you can kill a Rumble, or you can even pile dive on the Sejuani if you really want to. But none of those calls were made, and they sat there going, oh crap, it's too late.
Yeah, and you can see from Incarnation, he didn't even have a soldier out until Janna had ultied at that point. He didn't prep the fight at all. He wasn't in position to, because Apollo was right above him threatening. If he does stop to place a soldier at all, he'll get some auto attacks in there. And then his contribution to the fight was WQE, I get knocked back by Janna, I R, and then I have to walk away and die. That's all he did that fight, because a lot of Azir is prepping with one soldier up so you can Q, so you can E ahead of time, and then get the second one up for more DPS. But he didn't do any of that.
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to just, as Azir as a champion, have 2 to 3 soldiers up at all times, just for damage output purposes. And right.
But he had
not having the
threat around him, so he couldn't actually prep it.
Sure, but yeah, I mean, this is all just, foreplanning, seeing wards. This all should be prepped by C9.
Yeah, I think the point about being proactive and having the forethought to, if and when Team Impulse decides they want to engage on us while we're doing this dragon, what are we going to do, right? Yeah. Not waiting until it happens to then say, I don't know, I guess fight. But that continued to plague them throughout the game. Now they lose the dragon, they lose Baron off of that as well. It's a huge gold swing for Impulse, and that's where it just seemed like they were entirely lost on how to find their way back into the game.
Yeah. There was a call that I actually will defend. I know Jat didn't like it on the cast, and I know a lot of people are going to give me maybe flack for this one. So I want to first preface by saying I don't like results-driven analysis, meaning C9 lost when they went for Baron. Clearly, it was a bad call. I think the Baron call from C9 when they tried to get back in was the only choice they had left. No one could hold to the LeBlanc split push. They had a non-TP champion on the wrong side of the map. Going for Baron was the right choice here. It just simply didn't pan out because, well, you're already behind. That's going to happen sometimes. Anyway, we got to see glimmers of Meteos making a good call with his team behind, right? We've seen now C9 do a good job early game. We've seen them actually hold up in lanes for once. Okay, a bad dragon call, but they even made a good comeback attempt. We're seeing some growth for this team. They are still losing, but as far as that specific call goes, I liked it.
Yeah, and I want to talk about some TIP growth too, because Xiao's split push, that's something he's always done, on Yasuo and things like that. On the LeBlanc, and then solo killing balls while he's TPing and getting kind of that lucky kill where balls didn't look like he was looking, and the chain right when he started it was really big, because then he got turrets off of that, he got pressure, he got more gold in his inventory, and he helped open up the map. He got an inhibitor by himself.
Yep.
That's a big thing there, and Xiao's the guy, it's sink or swim, like what's happening with him. He waxes and wanes with basically the day. So finally a really good game from him. So shout outs to that.
Yeah, 8-0-5 applied a lot of pressure there. He's a person we've been looking to really step up and bring Tip to the next level. Now looking ahead to our marquee matchup, CLG has arrived. They are in the house. Here they are just a few minutes ago, heading into the studio, warming up for their big game. I'm sure Double Lift, Afro Moo are going to be a big part of that victory if it comes. And next up, Team Liquid, though, they will look to extend their hot streak when they take on Gravity in our second game of the day. A lot of action coming your way, and it all continues in just 3.5.
Okay, the lobby sneaky.
Huh?
Lobby sneaky.
Let me solo Baron. 1 sec.
Just let him solo Baron, so we'll know if he can do it in the real game.
Yeah, we'll tell broadcast, you know, we were going to start on time, but Sneaky has to solo Baron in the custom game real quick.
Have to.
Meteos could also go down. The teleport from Balls a little far away, and they are just walking on the red carpet. Equalizer coming in from Impact. 2-man ultimate. Sneaky's actually on the front there. Now he's forcing the Dragon Pit, and Dragon's attacking him. A good hit from Apollo takes him down. Good hit the full team here. A nice hit back by the Emperor's Divide. Impact and Rush in a bad spot here. Incarnation takes a few shots.
Here. I'm coming.
Yeah, Zanya. 노준야. Kite. Okay, showing one.
Azir down.
Nice.
What the?
Still 2. Yeah, bottom, done.
GG.
Team Impulse take down Cloud9.